This session is about partner speaking, which is about Ethiopia's groundbreaking work in agriculture transformation, along with the national ID. For this session, I do have Dr. Girum, who's the Director of Agriculture Transformation Institution, Ethiopia. And on the long side, I have Selamawit, who's the lead for National ID program, Ethiopia. Thank you so much for being part of this panel today. Just to set some context, Ethiopia is at the forefront of digital transformation, leveraging digital public infrastructure to revolutionize service delivery. Central to this transformation of integration is the FIDA ID, that's the national ID, which they call, which specializes in various sectors in terms of making it functional to different registries. So the objective is to understand the key areas of focus in terms of how the kind of national ID implementation has worked and how it is actually taken to the next level. So that's the whole discussion that we're going to have. So I would start with my first question to Selamawit. How does linking of foundational ID to a specific sector registry like ATI's farmer profile fundamentally change the government's ability to empower farmers?
Thanks, Worldly, for saying what I was thinking of to say. Thank you. So, yes, so let me say a little bit about FIDA so that my question really connects with my thought process in answering that. So FIDA is a foundational ID. So in Ethiopia, about 40% of the population is not ID'd. It means they don't have any form of formal identification. So when we say FIDA is foundational, we actually plan to give a foundational ID for all these people and for the rest of the 60% who's already ID'd. So what we mean by giving these people a foundational ID is we're also somehow giving them back their dignity and also their identity back, because unless you're identified in a formal documentation, that is here FIDA, no one will be able to give you service. So this also includes farmers. I'm not sure about the latest number. Dr. Girum will be helping me here, but 80% of the Ethiopian populations are actually farmers. So I think the number would be around maybe 16 million for smallholder farmers. So most of these people are not actually formally ID'd, let alone uniquely identifying these people. So what FIDA brings to the table is being able to uniquely identify farmers, and also bringing, I think we were in an event where Vinoth was actually presenting, where there are multiple siloed systems everywhere existing, trying to capture things in a very siloed format, which means one party is trying to register the lands farmers own, one land is trying to register the farmers themselves in a certain region, another for climate. So it's all a very different systems existing, but existing for that one farmer. So what we try to do is identify that farmer, availing this data for anyone who needs to use this data. So majorly what FIDA does is we capture like the 3 biometrics, the iris, the face, and the fingers in order to uniquely identify. And we plan to become the single source of truth for anyone who wants to work on residents. So farmers being residents, we also uniquely identify them and share them. So I think unlike the older system, which expected everyone to come. So for example, you want to register your land, you have to go to the land office. You want to register something else, you want to register for fertilizer, you have to go to the fertilizer office. What FIDA tries to do is bring everyone to the resident himself, uniquely identify it, and somehow, based on this foundational idea, the rest of the services can actually start going very easily. So this is the idea behind FIDA.
Thank you very much. In fact, yeah, I mean, that the great collaboration, between the National ID program and various other sectors, especially the ATI, in terms of making it functional, right? So that is the key aspect of a foundational ID, right? So part of that, I know that Dr. Girum, we are using OpenG2P and other DPG, right? How specifically, in terms of building the farmer registry, right? How specifically does the OpenG2P registry module help ATI move from data silos to robust interoperable profile? Can you explain a bit more about it?
Okay, thank you. So as both Vinoth and Salam mentioned, there are a number of databases that we have. And these databases, they were not able to communicate with each other. For example, our farmer hotline has 7 million registered users, and there is no way of mapping these users with the fertilizer distribution system, which has another million of users. And the main problem with this was there is no unique way of identifying the farmers in each of the different databases. So after we started building the farmer profile or the farmer registry, we used OpenG2P, and OpenG2P closely ties with the FIDA system. So it was easy for us to link the two systems together so that everything else will be identified through this registry. So the principle behind the farmer registry is one record per farmer. So we get the data from the field, we deduplicate it with the national ID system, then we put it in the registry. And there will be no other record, and every other system will have to link with this. And the most important component of that is creating a functional ID, which we call the farmer ID. And it again closely works with the FIDA ID generation mechanism, so it was easier to generate the unique IDs for our farmers. Another very important component, since we are working together, the FIDA ID was for some time limited in the cities or towns, but when we went to the regions or in the remote areas where most of our farmers live, we went together. And when we go out together, the farmers did not have unique ID because they are just registering, but they had temporary ID, and it was possible to integrate between the OpenG2P system and the MOSIP temporary ID system for later deduplication efforts, and all these things are the advantage we got through using OpenG2P.
Thank you, Doctor. So this is to Selamawit. So I know that we are advancing in terms of registering more citizens in Ethiopia, but I also understand that we are taking the ID concept to the next level, which is verifiable credentials, and especially in the agriculture sector for the farmers, right? Verifiable credentials, like in terms of eKYC and other aspects. So I just want to understand more about the FIDA Pass, which is getting implemented. Can you tell me more about the use cases, the advantages, and what are those features that National ID is planning to enable using FIDA Pass?
Yes, so FIDA Pass is our latest and newest product, which FIDA owns. So it's a credential wallet. So I'm sure whenever the concept of wallet is raised, we're all going to think about payment wallets related with finance. But this is actually a credential wallet, which can also have functionalities related with payment, but basically it's credential. So let me use a simple example. So A person is identified, okay. A person is also, that unique identity is used, for example, in a land management system that, for example, the Agricultural Ministry already have. Okay, so we basically have two data sources. There's the land and then there's the person. But there's one document in between binding the person and the land. That is a title deed. So a title deed is what guarantees that the person owns the land. But this title deeds usually exist in a paper format, which farmers and their lives it doesn't really go together because they get old and all of that. So what we trying to do on FIDA Pass is you digitalize it. You not only digitalize it, you actually make it verifiable. So as long as you have it on your mobile app, smart app, or you don't need a smart app, we actually are planning to have a cloud-based wallet. So as long as you have your ID with that, of course with your ATI credentials, what this does is make it accessible, make it shareable, and also make it verifiable. So basically it's where all the functionalities of a foundational ID and a functional ID come together to actually make the life of the farmer much easier. So this is what we're trying to do with FIDA Pass. This is specifically in the agricultural sector, but this is going to expand, we believe, to like much more, a lot of realms. So we plan to implement it in the educational sector. So I'm sure you guys know about the very many fraudulent cases in educational credentials. So we also plan to make this available there. We also want to make it in the revenue. So there are, in Ethiopia, we have a tax identification number and also tax clearances that actually are credential and that needs to be verified. So we want to bring the best of like the DPIs that we currently have, the identity DPI and also the external functional DPIs together and bring it and make it more accessible to both users and also to verifiers, because educational credentials are verified by universities and organizations that plan to hire. For example, the agricultural credentials, the land deeds are also verified by organizations. For example, banks who want to make sure that whichever land deed that you have is actually verified, you could also use the wallet to do that. So we want to bring ecosystem players together, making, as I have said, the center would be the farmer or whoever. We actually want to bring all those ecosystems back to one place. So this is what we're trying to do in FIDA Pass.
Thanks for that explanation, Salam. This is for you, Doctor. For the farmers on the ground, how will the integration, interoperability, data exchange of several registries into, say, an example of the use cases of farmer, advisory hotlines or input voucher system? And I think, we're talking about AI as well, right? So in terms of advisory, how does this change their daily experience or productivity compared to the current practices? I mean, this is more of integration of databases and, the use cases in terms of hotline, vouchers, and AI, how's going to be the experience compared to the current practices?
Okay. So currently, I mentioned that we had a farmers hotline that has over 7 million registered users. So what that system serves is a pre-recorded message about agronomic practices and livestock husbandry. So they could just call the number and they'll be guided through an IVR menu and they will just listen to a pre-recorded message. But this message is approved or modified every year or every other year. If the farmer has specific questions, it won't be able to respond to it. But now, with the help of these registries, we will be able to provide targeted and contextualized responses. For example, if the farmer would like to know which products they need to sow this season, comparing the weather and the soil and so on. This system will be able to understand the land where the farmer has, because there is a link between the farmer information and the land information. There is another database where we have soil nutrient information. Again, you can overlay the land GPS with the location with the soil system, then you will be able to identify the soil type. And then this can be again checked with the type of crops that can be sown in that particular location. And also the price information which resides in another database can be factored in, so that a comprehensive advisory service can be provided for the farmer. So this is one of the advantages of having interoperability among the different databases. This same analogy will work with the loan access to finance system for the farmers as well. Currently, the banks in Ethiopia, usually they tend to avoid risk by just working with people with collateral. And our farmers, most of them have very limited land size, and the farmers are, the banks are very hesitant to give them loan. But if you provide first the identity of the farmer, the location of the land, and other agronomic information to the financial organization, they could just factor in all these components in their credit scoring systems, so that they decide to give them a loan for the service or the farm activities that they want to do. So there are a lot of use cases that can be enabled by just bringing in interoperability, unique identification, and so on together.
Thank you, Doctor. This question is for both. I think it's a very challenging question, probably. What are the primary technical and policy hurdles you faced as such in terms of, national ID and farmer registry, or anticipate when attempting to establish a real-time data exchange between various systems? Example, ID to farmer registry, and even farmer registry to other internal and external systems. So what are those technical and policy hurdles and challenges which you've seen getting it implemented?
Okay, let me go first. So with respect to comparing the technical hurdles with the policy hurdles, I would say that the technical ones are much easier, because you could work on it in your little lab and come up with a lot of solutions. But I would leave the policy hurdles to Dr. Girum. But even from the technical sides, we, as FIDA, we've actually made a pretty good authentication modality. So we used MOSIP's eSignet. We customized it to our own needs, and a lot of people, as Dr. Girum mentioned before, were using it in town. People who have access to smartphone, and people who had access to PCs, waves. It was working fine. So our adoption rate was very high. But farmers are not found in cities. Most farmers don't have smartphones. Most farmers don't even know what a web page is. So the solutions that we provided needed to adapt to the situations that our farmers are living here and now. So that's where the solution this is from the ATI team and OpenG2P team came, that we might need to be doing the registration, the FIDA registration and the farmer registration hand in hand together, because farmers travel a lot of kilometers to come to these centers, and asking them to come for FIDA registration once and also asking them to come for the farmer registration does not make sense. So we had to actually change the APIs of our existing eKYC sharing APIs and kind of had to make them to work offline. So basically how we made it happen is a registration happened. So you guys know that the MOSIP registration always generates a registration ID whenever a registration happens. So, as Ethiopia, we actually printed a registration receipt. So for people who have their own SIM card and who uses individual phone numbers, we actually also send this registration number. But for most of the farmers, this was not possible. So we had to print a QR code together with it, and we gave this for people so that they could follow up their registration. But the ATI team and us, what we did is, what if we actually capture from the QR code, we capture the registration ID, and this is stored in the initial ODK system that they used. So what we did is we're still offline because the MOSIP registration client works offline, we're still offline. So what happened is we prepared another API who would call our registration platform based on the registration ID. Before, it used to be that a person would be giving their FIDA ID and will be authenticated either using face, OTP, or fingerprint. But now we actually had to collect this consent part at the time of registration. So the time of registration, two kind of consents were being collected. The first one is for FIDA registration, the second one was for farmer registration. So you see that there is an operational merging that we did, and also a technical change that we actually had to implement. But the KYC fetching was something done later on the server side. So this is all, I don't think this exists in the normal MOSIP integration, but we had to adapt. Our technical solutions had to adapt to the current challenges on the ground. So this was one of our challenges. So what do you do on offline cases? The other one is something that we still are discussing amongst ourselves is you would go and as the FIDA registration is actually expanding, there are people without phone numbers who would use like a village head phone number to register, like many farmers. What would we do if that person does not have the OTP to receive and authenticate? Buying biometric devices is going to be very expensive. So we're also coming up with solutions as we go, because this kind of problems you're not going to observe while working at our headquarters. So I think finding solutions, finding offline solutions, that was the major technical problem. But also as we went down the road, we were being challenged with the quality of the QR codes. Farmers who have already registered, but who don't know that they have already registered. So this kind of like communication gaps, operational challenge would eventually become technical problems that we had to solve, but it was kind of a collaborative activity that we did. We had to adapt. I mean, I also wear the hat of a product manager, and we're very agile at FIDA. So we had to implement this agile approach whenever we have problems. And some other times we also had to draw the line, because technical solutions can only take you so long. You also have to have operational safeguards on the way. So that's it. But before Dr. Girum, I also want to I've had some experiences in the agricultural sector too. I think the major challenge is bringing stakeholders together. I think even for FIDA, that's also one of the biggest challenges. Everybody works, everybody's working well within their own sector, within their own organization, but bringing people and showing them the bigger image, the bigger vision is actually the biggest challenge, I believe. But I would be leaving the policy part to Dr. Girum.
Okay. So I think you have nicely summarized the technical challenges. But when we come to the other types of challenges, the first one I would say is the farmer awareness and mobilization part itself is very critical, because for farmers, since they don't travel much or since they don't need IDs, convincing them to get the FIDA ID and the register for farmer registration is also one of the major challenges. So, because they had to travel like maybe 5-10 kilometers to go to the registration center. and they don't want to leave their village unless there is something meaningful for them. So we had to do lots of socialization work. We had to go through the district or the locality administrators to convince them that having the registering for the national ID and also for the farmer profile is an important exercise. So that is one of the challenges. The other challenge again is with the policy and regulations. There is no clear data standards where we can exchange data with, as I mentioned before. For example, if you take my name, people could write it in 10 different forms. So is it 10 different people or one person with different spellings? So these are some of the challenges, not only with names, with the location names themselves, not only the person's names. So this is related to data quality, data standardization, and so on. Another very, very difficult challenge is the data ownership part. Every system owners consider the data as their own, and sharing it, they consider it that if they share it, they will lose control of their data. And again, unless there is a very strict way of enforcing data governance, again, it will be very challenging for to make use of these different systems. So what we are doing in this regard is, along with the farmer profile project, we have hired a consultant to develop a data governance framework and data quality or data standard guidelines and things like that. So hopefully this will be approved, or it will be passed as a law or a directive by the Ministry of Agriculture, so that every data owner in the Ministry of Agriculture or in the agriculture sector will abide by that rule, so that seamless integration and interoperability will be possible. Finally, the data collection itself, again, considering the scattered settlement of rural community, it's very challenging unless we use some different types of kits. It will be difficult to, for example, when we went to one district, they had to travel on foot for like 15 kilometers to reach to that small village where there are 1,000 households. Again, if there is no electric power there, they have to come back the same distance to charge their devices. So these kind of things are, again, challenging in the data collection aspect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, indeed, these adults, when we hear it, right, it's very unique, very specific, on the ground, and it's so happy to hear that those kind of specific solutions that both National ID and Farmer ATI has developed. So thank you so much for that explanation. And the last question, again, it's for both of you. So reflecting on the implementation of the project, right? What has been the most surprising lesson regarding the use of open source digital public goods, and what advice would you give other nations looking to replicate such models in these sectors in terms of national ID and agriculture sectors?
I think let me go first. So as I mentioned, I also wear my major hat is as a product manager, as a technology product manager. So I would say that the surprising lesson is do it yourself. That's what I'm going to say. So yes, I understand that there are a lot of solution providers in the ground. Also, this is also, I think the Muslim Connect is also there to connect solution providers and also solution users. But I think there is a great sense of ownership and also liberation when people who understand the situation on the ground can work on the solution and can implement the solution. I think as Ethiopia, maybe I did not mention it before, we do not have, yes, we work very closely with MOSIP, but we are our own system integrator. I don't mean this in any way to, to offend or to push away our system integrators who are part of this event, but I think there is a great lesson in understanding the potential of the country, the potential of the use when this kind of DPI projects are actually done in-house. So I manage a team of engineers who are learned in Ethiopia and who are working in this project. And it's really surprising to see the amount of accomplishments and success and also learning that we can do when you do things internally. So I think there could also be somehow a shift in the SI environment. And when doing this kind of things, I think having the local perspective is a very major and important point when actually implementing this, and when you actually making it sustainable, and when you actually want a DPI who is going to be surviving 20, 30 years down the line. So I think the most surprising thing for me personally is do it yourself. I think we're also doing it with ATI, but I think going forward, having this kind of perspectives have changed my understanding, and this is something that I would like to share to other nations. It's not going to be easy. It's really not going to be easy. There are a lot of hurdles. There are a lot of up and downs. But I think at the end, having that capacity inside and internally would eventually be the winning point.
Thank you, Salam. Doctor?
Okay. I think for me, well, I may not say it surprising lesson, but it is a lesson because I have been working in the open systems for quite some time, and I understand the power of open source solutions. But I think when we started the implementation of the farmer profile with OpenG2P, I was just joining ATI at that time, and when you start something new, if you are on your own, it's a bit challenging. But with the help of the OpenG2P team, what we did was we started building the capacity of the local people, the local young professionals. And why that is very important is when you plan something on the desk, things looks like they are easy to implement. But when you go to the remote areas, when you go to the farmers, you will see that what you thought in your office is completely different from the reality. So what does that require? You have to change your code again. So if you will be using proprietary systems, that is going to be a very expensive kind of approach. For example, when we started collecting the data, we just let the data enumerators to put the land ID and the land size in the ODK form. So what happened is the data collectors, they just put in some random numbers, one, and that means in the land ID part. So that means when you later try to get that information from the land system, it's not going to work. Again, they put very random numbers as land size. Again, that is another challenge. So when this happens, what do you have to do? You have to go back to the field and look for that particular farmer. But later on, what we did with the help of Shibu's team here is we just load only the legitimate land IDs in that particular district. This way we were able to eliminate the mismatch of land IDs, which is very critical for the farming community. So what I would like to say here is the model that was adopted with OpenG2P has helped us that we can do things together in a faster way, and we improvise as soon as we get the challenges.
Thank you so much, both of you. Indeed, you know, the caption itself says groundbreaking, you know, work both in the ID space as well as in the agriculture space. It's really inspiring to hear. It is just not the normal implementation. I think it's a transformational journey for Ethiopia. And special thanks to both of you to be part of you know, this panel and sharing your experiences, challenges, and solutions. Thank you so much once again.